Hello there, this is Eric Goodbar with Fast Track Pain and Mobility Solutions in Roanoke, Virginia. We're going to do in this video a quick, well, it's not going to be quick in the video, but hopefully you'll be able to do it quickly at home once you get familiar with the routine. It's a check-in, so you can kind of get a thorough check-in with how everything's moving and feeling in your body. We get through our day, we walk and we sit, and sometimes we don't move much more than that. This will give you a chance to really check in with lots of movement, to give different joints different movements and see if it all feels good or if some of it feels tight or painful. And then once you do check in regularly, you'll get a baseline of what things usually feel like. Some things will start to feel better as you do different things over time, and some things will always be tight or always be painful. And they're the bigger ones that you want to be targeting when there's when you're either if there's tight or pain somewhere, there's a problem that we want to resolve. And you can do lots of things to try to get that better on your own, or you can go see a practitioner like myself, and then you can tell us what you always notice when you do a check-in, so that we know more of what's going on in your day-to-day basis. Now, the first part of the check-in, what we're going to do is take your shoes off, be on a hard surface. You can leave your socks on or take them off. We're not going to move so much that we're going to slide and slip. So socks shouldn't matter right now. But hard surface, no fluffy carpet underneath your feet. And I want to first check in with the skull movements, rib cage movements, and the pelvis movements. We'll get through them. And if anything hurts bad, don't quite go into the pain. If it's a little whisper of an ache, don't worry about that. Go to end range to end range. But if you feel like something is painful, shorten up your end range that's getting uncomfortable and just make that your current end range for now. And then if that feels better one day, that's easier to go further, then you can go further. Okay. So before I get any further, I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice. If you participate in this, you're taking any risk in your own hands, and I am not responsible, but I do hope that you get a lot out of this over time. So first thing we're going to do is, we've already got your shoes off on a hard surface. Check in by standing still in neutral. Don't change anything. Ask yourself to pay attention to the pressures on the bottoms of your feet. You might feel like you're heavier on one side or the other. You might feel like you're heavier towards the front or the back of the feet. Maybe one side's front towards the front and the other foot you're heavier in the back. Maybe you're heavier on the outside of the feet, or maybe you're on the inside of the feet. Maybe it's different per foot. But check in and make a quick note either on paper or just keep it in your head, so that we can come back and check on that and see if it's the exact same or if it's any different. Okay, so check in with that without doing a bunch of movements. Just really be quiet in your body. All right, now from there, you've got a starting place. With the skull, we're going to do 4 basic movements. I'm going to be talking through them, so while I want you to continue the movement while I talk, if I stop, just keep going with the movement. So now we're going to we're going to anterior tilt and posterior tilt the skull. So make the ear the axis of rotation, the pivot point. So I don't want a giraffe neck forward and back. I want the nose should drop down. It's almost like you're getting a double chin. The ear did not move forward. And then the same thing in the other direction, the nose goes up. So you're going to go back and forth, maybe 6 or 8 or 10 times. Count 1, 2, 3, and just feel the quality of the movement. Does it feel easier to go one way or the other? Does it hurt to go one way or the other? Maybe it hurts on the left side but not the right, or maybe it just varies per person and individual. It might feel nice and easy in both directions. So do that, feeling, checking in. If you need to stop and make a quick note, or keep it in your head. See what that was. Because when you do check-ins every day or every few days or something, you'll see if the same places feel the same every time, or if some are getting better. And some will be getting better if you're using the check-ins. The other movement, or the next movement with the skull, is going to be a tilting, a hike and a drop. So if I keep my nose as the axis point, the point of rotation, and I think my left ear goes up, that makes my right ear go down. And then we're going to go back and forth. Again, I don't want to lean. I want to keep the nose here, and that's the point of axis. And think of, count through them, 6 or 8 or 10, and feel, is one side easier or harder or painful? And make a note of that. Okay, the third movement with the skull, keep everything else straight, looking eyes over the horizon. I want to slowly rotate right and left. Trying not to move your shoulders, look straight ahead, following the horizon line. Check for variation. Is one easier than the other or one harder? Maybe they're both good. Okay, good. Now we're going to check in with a shift, left and right shifts. Try to keep all this straight and maybe look in a mirror so you know you're not leaning and everything. But think of maybe reaching your ear over to the left and ear over to the right. Trying to minimal movement through the rest of the body if you can. And feel, does one side go easier or the other? And if there's something that stands out, make a note of it. Okay, that's the 4 movements. We're going to do that now with the rib cage. Rib cage is going to tilt forward and back. So think of the sternum when it rises and when it falls. The rib cage is getting to tilt backwards and forwards. I don't want you swaying back and forth. So make sure if you're looking in a mirror or have a friend watch you that you're trying to just get this rib cage up and down. Feel the quality. Is it easier to do one or the other? Maybe you can't move the rib cage without going all this. That's a problem if you can't move it at all. And maybe you can move it just a little bit. Well, if you can only move it a little bit, you're very tight and restricted. We need to get that back in the system because it's restricting other things. And it will improve. If you're doing this check-in over time, that's probably going to slowly, sometimes quickly, gain its mobility back in the system that used to be there a long time ago. Now that was that. Now we're going to do the hike and drop. So if I think of the rib cage dropping down, I'm looking straight over the horizon, and then change the side, one side down, the other side down, and that makes the other side go up. And I'm not really trying to hike the shoulders, they're just following the rib cage so much. Okay, so up and down, left and right, hike and drop. I do not want this. Okay, try to keep this level as much as you can, and go through that. Now the rotation, keep the head straight, the pelvis straight. See if you can rotate just the rib cage left and right. And if you need to feel that you're keeping things straight while you rotate, you can try that. Sometimes just touching another part to make sure it's not following along is helpful. Seeing yourself in a mirror is helpful. Good. Now we're going to do the shift. All these I'm going to go through them, but you're going to make a mental note or a real note if anything feels worth noting, something that's obvious that's different. Shifting the rib cage. Head's eye level, trying to keep it over the horizon. It's going to be a little wonky, a little weird feeling, but try to think of that rib cage shifting over. It's not a perfectly straight shift, but you're just seeing what's possible without moving all of this in your head too. The head's just following the shoulder, following the rib cage is all it's doing. So you got that to do, the shift. We're going to bring all that back down to the pelvis and make notes on anything that you got to do. You got to pause to make notes. The pelvis tipping forward and back. If you raise your tail, that tips the forward tilt. And then when you tuck the tail, that's a posterior tilt. And try to do this by isolating as much of just the pelvis as you can. We're not doing this. So just raise the tail and tuck the tail. Feel, is one easier than the other? Is it more achy on one side than the other? Go through that. Make your notes if you have any. And then we're going to go to the hike and drop. So if I'm standing neutral, if I bend the right knee and let this just fall straight down the hip, and then I can switch, straighten that leg and bend the other, that hip drops, this one hikes up. Now remember, I'm not doing this, and I'm not rotating to do it. I want to keep all this fairly straight like we're in a tube. Just feeling the quality of the hip hike. Nice and just fluid movement. We're not holding, none of these we're not going to hold. We're not going to hold on any of them. We're going to hit the end range that doesn't hurt and then go to the other end range. All right, so that was that. And we're going to go to rotation. Keep this all straight. We're going to rotate the pelvis side to side, left and right. Check in. Use a mirror. That'll help you know if you're moving everything else or not. But also, just touching the sternum helps you with a cue to keep that straight instead of following the hips. Make your notes. Okay, now pelvis shifting. You may or may not want to let your feet come a little further out, but not too much if you do. And let the pelvis, keep this eye level. Pelvis goes out and then goes across to the other side. Just a back and forth. Feel the end. Go through to the other end. Feel. Is one side easier than the other? Or are they both good? Is there pain somewhere? Check in. Eyes over the horizon. Okay, good. Now, after you do what we just did, walk down the hall real quick, come back, stand in the same spot, get neutral in your stance. Check back in with the pressures on the feet. Pause the tape if you want, but feel the pressures. Did they change any? If they were heavier on one side or in the front or the back or outside, inside, if any of that was obvious, did any of that come more back into a more centered place? If it didn't, that's okay. Did it change at all? If it changed, know what changed. And then the next time you do a check-in, you can check your pressures and see, is it where I left off? Did it go back to where it started? And so forth. And over time, you'll have kind of something to observe and watch. So it's not just the feeling in the movement that you're watching. It's the foot pressures. And so you can either, if on a random day, not right now, you can either go back through those movements after you did all that, go through the movements again and see if any of them feel any easier or they're the same. Maybe something feels harder. But check in, and each time you can check in with your foot pressures and see if that changes. So your check-in is to observe, make a good observation point, find a baseline of where you're at each time you do it, see if anything's changing. But it's also helping you centrate your center of mass, balance your mass management, so you're better for performing, and you're going to be more mobile, more stable, and things are going to be kind of getting more neutral. So that's a good thing. Now we're going to check real quick forward bend that feels safe to you. Check in. Does it feel tight in the hamstrings? Does it feel tight in the back? Maybe it's just one hamstring. What is that? What does that feel like to you? Just hang out there for, it could be 6-8 seconds. Just check in and then make a note. And then if you need a wall to hold on to or just work on your balance, get a foot up there, stand straight. First check in, is this even possible for you? If it's easy, take the knee backwards without leaning forwards. We don't want that. Back, feel where is the tightness? How tight is it? And then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. Is one side worse than the other? First, see if you can get in the position. Check your balance. You can play with your balance. Now, knee back. Feel that. Are both sides equal? Are both sides really tight? Are both sides pretty easy to get into? We're going to check the, I'm going through this fast to keep the video short, but you can pause it. Calves, maybe even feet. We're going to get on the wall. One leg back. That's the one we're testing. Check how your calf feels. Is it tight on one side? We'll check both sides. Check, is it tight on the top of the calf, lower calf, inside of the calf, outside of the calf? Is it tight or uncomfortable in the feet or foot? Switch sides, same check-in, just check and compare. Is one side tighter than the other? And where is it tighter? Or is it actually pain? Check in with that. Now we're going to go from that. We went all the way down. Now we're going to go back into the arms and we're going to rotate out and in. Thumbs away from the body, thumbs back into the body. Just feel, does it feel even? Does it feel easy? Or is one side a little more junky? And that, all those are indications of things that you would like to get better. And we can help you with that either in the office or you can try things on your own that you feel safe with. All right, so now we're going to check the wrists. I'm going through these pretty quickly because I don't want this video to be any longer than necessary. You're kind of going to a prayer pose like and coming down. As soon as you feel like your palms want to start coming away, then that's going to be a good check-in place. Does it feel like you stop here and you can't go down any further? That would be a very tight set of wrists, or maybe one's easy and one's not. Check in with that. We can make that better if it feels like it's too tight. I think this is the last one we're going to do. We're going to check in with the jaw. We're going to open really wide but not straining, and as long as it feels safe. If you've ever had your jaw lock up, maybe don't open this as wide as you can, but give it a good open wide and then close. And see if it feels like one side or the other is tight, or are they both pretty good and not so bad. You can do that one a couple of times if you need to, but don't go overboard on it and don't strain that jaw. Okay, so that's some good check-ins. Lots of good benefits to doing all this stuff. You can go back, try to target areas that were tighter than other areas and do it in a safe way. And if you're still coming up where every time you check in, it's always tighter in those areas or it's always painful in those areas, then you want to come into the office. We'll do some work on you to try to target that stuff and see what we can get more neutral for you so you're better for performing, and whether it's sports or just your daily life, you'll be in better shape, feeling good, and moving better. Okay? If you have any questions, let me know. But mark through time, see how things are going, and as they change, make notes of it so you can see if there's always something stuck, or is it everything is improving, or just you'll have a check-in spot. Okay, hope you enjoyed that, and you can use it regularly as much as you want. You can do it a couple times a day. You can do it a couple times a week. Do it daily, but you'll start to have a sense of what your baseline is from there. Okay. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed it. Send me questions. Contact me. Reach out. There's lots of ways to get me on YouTube. YouTube, Facebook, my website, twinpalms.massagetherapy.com, and check in with me if you need a question answered or if you need an appointment. Okay? Thank you.